Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Timeless. So in this episode, we have the team going back to colonial times, in particular, the Salem witch trials time. It is Lucy, Rufus, and Flynn, because Wyatt's off dealing with his whole situation, which I'll get to that later on. That's going to be a separate thing. But obviously, it's kind of interesting because you could tell just like, I love like Rufus being like, okay, because Flynn wants to bring a gun. It's like, no, for you to, I don't really like being shot in the back. And Flynn's like, really? You think that's the only way I can kill you? It's like, I love that they make him. I think they're doing like the thing that I've talked about recently about what I like is when you make your villains kind of charming, and it seems like he's charming. He's got like these one-liners here and there, because obviously he was his main antagonist, well, pseudo main antagonist last season. Now he's kind of one of the good guys, so they're having a little more fun with his character, and he's kind of jokey. Like literally, all the episode he's looking for a weapon. He's like, these damn. What was it, Puritans? I can't even find a butter knife. Are you happy about this? And Rufus is kind of like, actually, yeah, I kind of am. I'm okay with you not having a weapon. And literally, it's just like, I can't find a gun. I can't find a gun. He's like, I know you have a gun. Oh, yeah. He's like, finally. The moment he got a gun in, he says, I feel complete. It's so weird because obviously Lucy is kind of hesitant about bringing him along, but it's like Wyatt's dealing with his whole situation, and they need muscle with what they're doing because obviously everyone's really very conflicted about it because it's like, I don't really know if you should be bringing him along. So there's that. Basically, it is the shitty situation that is the Salem witch trials, just because, and it's something Lucy kind of gets into. And I really liked her monologue. Well, I don't know if it's really considered a monologue, but I love her speech of basically being like, just because you were different, because you won't be what someone says that you are, saying that you are a witch, that you refuse to change for them. It's like they're equating these little things that these certain people do. Like one lady is like, oh, she communicates with demons. It's like, no, she just enjoys talking to animals. She likes enjoying talking to the birds. It's like, oh, what happened to these pigs? Obviously, she killed them. This other lady killed them. It's like, no, the dude who takes care of those pigs is drunk all the time and they starved. Oh, this little girl who said this and that, like she's a little girl. She has an imagination. Like obviously stuff you pick up from the Crucible. Stuff like that. And it's such a shame that things kind of like get so out there like that. To the point, even like, because one of the people that gets accused is the main girl they meet this episode, and that's Abby Franklin. I was like, oh, Lucy was kind of fretting over. I'm like, who is this lady? Why is she so? I should have known by the name, but it didn't correlate. I was like, oh, that's Benjamin Franklin's mom. And it's like, oh, it kind of would make sense why she is important, because it's like, especially the way Lucy kind of brought it up, that Benjamin Franklin was one of the biggest motivators for kind of like speak your mind against kind of like, don't kind of let. I guess he's probably one of the biggest components for like free speech, kind of essentially. So it's just kind of interesting. So then you have Lucy getting locked up because her mom is saying like, oh, because Carol's in this interesting situation where it's like she doesn't want to do anything to Lucy, but Nicholas is like, we got to remove her from the equation. But that's your great granddaughter. Yeah, I had to pause. Like, remember that. It's like, yeah, that's your great granddaughter. It's like, well, whatever. She's a hindrance to this whole plan. And you have Emma being the kiss ass that she is, because Emma doesn't like. It's hard to say, like, Emma has no allegiances, but at the same time, it's like, well, she has one allegiance to this whole, like, I'm curious why she's so embedded. Well, to be fair, she kind of had to rise through the ranks, whereas, like, Lucy, like, she talked about it even in the premiere, like, Lucy never had to fight for anything. Like, Emma's position where she is in the grand scheme of things, she's a loyal soldier that heavily believes in the cause and everything. It's like, she had to fight her way, she had to earn her way to, like, the position that she's in, not like Lucy, who was born into royalty, essentially, when it comes to the whole Rittenhouse situation. And it's just, she's doing everything. It's like, oh, you want this taken care of, Nicholas? Sure thing. Carol won't do this. She's this and that. I was like, oh, I'll take care of it. Oh, she won't handle this Lucy situation? Fine, I will. But she tries to. Hence, like, she locks Lucy up. It's like, really? You're literally sending your daughter to potentially die. But for her, it's like, no, I'm doing this so that you will kind of understand what's going on here. But it's like killing Abby Franklin. Like, Lucy wasn't even concerned about herself. I guess for her, it's just kind of like, I already know where you stand when it comes to me, but you're doing such, like, you're going to hit America in such an impactful way. Like, not only are you just sending an innocent woman to die, but you're also, like, impeding, like, good things that could come, like, that come about because of her son Benjamin Franklin and stuff like that. But it's like, you know, Carol's got the mindset of like, well, sacrifices have to be made. It's for the greater good. Lucy literally was saying like, I would rather hang than go with you, which is so sad because now, like, I think on some level maybe she was still hopeful that there was something left when it came to her mom. But now it's just probably all that's going, and they kind of both giving up on each other. Like Carol still was clinging on, like, no, it doesn't have to be like this. It didn't have to be like this if you went with Lucy when you had the opportunity to, but you didn't. You're so caught up in your cause of trying to make the world a better place. I mean, it's so interesting because they, you know, part of Rittenhouse, they have their ideas of what's going to be the perfect place. But it's like when it's all said and done, when it actually comes about, who's, you know, perfection, this utopia you're trying to build, who's to say it will be the perfect utopia? Like, you know, there'll probably be issues that, oh, you're kind of like, oh, this is what you're fighting for and you believe in, but who's to say it's all going to work out for you? Like Carol may in the long run kind of like, oh, how this is the world we built. I thought it was going to be perfect, but it's terrible. Might be something that everyone ultimately, like Nicholas might not be the visionary that you think he is. He could turn out to be a complete sociopath for all you know, which potential, definitely potential, but you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting in that whole regard. Luckily, they were able to change everything. It seems like in this history, there were no witch hunts. It's actually called the Witch Revolt. Even the term witch hunt, even like Rufus had to explain it to Gia because it's like, no one knows what that is in this timeline, so. But luckily, they were able to save everyone. Also thanks to Flynn, who got a gun and started like kicking some serious ass. But I also appreciate it too. Like even Rufus was like, oh, I like this Lucy that's reckless, because Lucy has decided to kind of throw away caution to the wind. Like obviously season 1, she was the biggest component for being like, no, we need to keep history as much as the same as possible. But for her, it's like, no, she feels like she's watched enough innocent people to die. She wasn't going to let these 9 innocent women die as well. So I think going forward, we're definitely going to see like a more revolutionary Lucy in a sense of her being like, if we need to change time, we need to change time, and we'll leave it at that. Like, we will, you know, I mean, and then at the same time, though, it is that situation of like, it's like, because if you start doing that, you're literally going to be doing the same thing that Rittenhouse is doing. Like, who are you to dictate how history should be? That's hence why, like, Lucy was all about keeping it the same, because, like, this is the way history is. What, for better or worse, this is our history. We can't be going around screwing with it. But I'm curious to see, like, is it just going to be innocent people, or when it comes to certain circumstances? Like, I mean, this Lucy right here, like, obviously she did it back in season 1. She was going to stop Lincoln's assassination, but she hesitated. But I think Lucy now would probably jump a lot more to it, because it's like, that's an innocent man that was going to die and who could do a lot of great things. Obviously, it's a situation of time travel. You don't know the domino effects and stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be interesting going forward to see where she goes from here, because she's obviously going to be in complete contrast to her mom. Her mom's all about like killing innocent people to these people to make the timeline fit what they want. It's like, well, they're going to be going out of their way to save those people. So we're save lives while you're trying to destroy lives, inadvertently destroying lives so you can save lives in your weird whole cultish like belief system and your whole Rittenhouse situation. What was interesting about, really quickly, is we do have the Gia situation. She explains it to Rufus. Obviously, Rufus at first takes it as a joke, but then, like, after finding out, oh, we're going to colonial times, and she's like, oh, man, he's freaking out, because he's like, man, like, what does this mean? Like, the Rittenhouse agent, turns out it's not the dude. They threaten him and everything, but obviously Flynn lets him go because it's like, oh, his daughter was there, and obviously, like, Flynn being a father himself, that kind of hit him in a soft spot. But later on, that guy pops up, and I was like, oh my God, it's coming down to this. I was like, please don't shoot him, Rufus. But Rufus didn't. He was like, please just walk away. Go home to your daughter. And even the dude was walking away. I was like, oh man, Flynn's going to come up and shoot you, isn't he? And it's going to be terrible. And it's like, oh no, he's walking away. And then the horse comes and kills him. It's like, oh my, that sucks. Now that turns into the question of fate and destiny, and that's kind of, you know, that's actually what, not fate and destiny, free will and destiny, and fate. Like, that's something that, you know, Rufus starts bringing up, because he's like, now I'm starting to wonder about that, because he uses Lucy, for example. It's like, you say that there's no such thing as that, there is free will and stuff like that, but look, even in your, like, Flynn talked about the fact is that one day you would be working with him. Well, it's like, look where we are, we're working with him. And so it does put that in, and makes Rufus go like, okay, so Gia, the fact of the matter is, because you told me what was going to happen, it led events to playing out that way. Like, those horses went wild because Flynn ended up scaring them. And also that dude, they scared that dude earlier. That's why he came after Rufus later. So it turns into that situation of by Gia warning him, things played out that way. But it's like, they would have probably played out the way in her vision. Unless, because the fact is what we saw of her vision was Rufus with the gun. Next thing we saw was his hands covered in blood and him looking shocked. So I'm assuming just contextually, it was most likely he shot the dude and tries to go over and tries to make sure the guy is okay. Or it's trying to show that Gia potentially can see both outcomes for certain situations, even the eventualities. Maybe that's something that could be an element to her ability. Cause like I said, cause it just seemed out of context, the whole, like him shooting the dude and then being covered in blood. So it's almost like she saw two different timelines, and maybe it's a situation of maybe there's a third route involved. Like, I mean, there's so many different, like, timelines that can be split down so many, like, there's so much to it. Like, there's so many different outcomes potentially. So it's like, I don't know which one it's the right route, so maybe it's saying there's a third option, maybe there are other options, or maybe that is all contextually the same thing, and it just so happened. So it does beg the question, like, is there such thing as free will and destiny? Gia might be the best proponent to be like, nope, things will always play out this way. So it does beg the question, like, holy shit, like, maybe there is no such thing as free will, that things will always play out the way they're supposed to play out. Kind of the argument that's been made, but, even in season 1, so we'll see, especially because we do have the whole Flynn and Lucy situation, because I think this is going to create a closer bond between them, even though he's an enemy. Like, now is like, he saved their lives, he was actually helpful, he's being very compassionate towards Lucy. So, which immediately my brain goes, are you going to set up a potential him and Lucy situation, which is weird considering the whole Lucy and Wyatt situation that literally happened last episode. But then it's like, oh yeah, Jessica's alive. That turns into a complication for Wyatt because, like, apparently in this timeline, him and Jessica don't have a great relationship. He's actually drunk a lot. They have a lot of arguments and fights. Just things aren't good. They went to a marriage counselor. Obviously, like, their relationship always wasn't the best. Even when in the timeline when she died, but losing her kind of put things in perspective and made him realize just how fleeting life can be. Like, he tries to talk to her, but she's like, like, things aren't working out. She even signs divorce papers. So he does the unthinkable. He takes her to their bunker, which they ended up discovering that basically, Rittenhouse had gone back in time and saved Jessica. The question is, why? Does that mean she's part of Rittenhouse? Which obviously Christopher brings that up to Wyatt, but he doesn't listen because he's just kind of like, because that begs the question, like, maybe they did something else then and that led to accident. Like, Jessica being alive now could be totally an accident. I'm not that believed in that possibility. I'm thinking like, no. She's part of the plan. Because even something that was kind of, I think even, who was it? Someone suggested it's like, well, maybe they brought her back. I think it was Rufus that was kind of like, maybe they brought her back because they knew she could keep him busy, because it's like, oh yeah, that's the biggest reason why Wyatt was a part of this team, was to save Jessica. Maybe it'll get him to quit. So it would kind of be one man down type of situation. I don't know. That could potentially be a possibility. It was kind of interesting seeing her kind of see everything kind of happen, because she's like, first of all, she overhears Wyatt talking about having buried her 6 years ago. So like, okay, I'm out of here. Wait, Mason and Colin? No, blah, blah, blah. Time travel? Yeah, right. Boom. Holy shit, time travel is real. This is crazy. And so she listens to what Wyatt has to say, and he explains everything like, oh yeah, like, I'm not kidding when I say I am not the man that you've known for the past 6 years. I don't know what he did to not, but whatever it was, he didn't deserve you. But just give me this chance. And it's just like, oh, that's so complicated, because it's like, oh man, you and Lucy were good. I mean, they literally picked the worst episode to do that to, because it's like the episode you and Lucy are getting intimate. Maybe that's kind of the point. Maybe it's to kind of cause some like tension between the team, because they knew exactly at what point in time White and Lucy might be together. Maybe. I don't think they do. I wonder, does Rittenhouse have future knowledge? Like, that was kind of all Flynn's information. Note that the diary situation hasn't come up yet. It hasn't been like, oh, here's the diary, which is sooner or later Lucy's going to start writing it and is going to go into the whole loop situation. But like, we haven't seen Flynn. I guess Flynn read so much of it, it's kind of ingrained in his brain, or maybe it's there, they just haven't really referenced it. But still, I think we are going to get down that route, because it's something I brought up too, is the whole situation, like Lucy's, like a part of her journal that Flynn read to Wyatt last season was like, oh yeah, that the fact of the matter is Wyatt is so obsessed with his wife's death he's not willing to move on type of situation, which is interesting considering the fact. So does that mean things have changed because she is alive in this timeline? So does that mean Lucy will never write that? So does that mean things are definitely changing in this timeline. So even Lucy's future is slightly changing. So maybe that's in other regards. You know, will this get Wyatt to find out what would have potentially happened? I mean, it never happened in his world. So it's kind of like, so, you know, would there even be a need for it? I mean, he never found her real killer. I mean, because even when he tried to change things with the man he believed killed her, it turns out not to be the case because she still ended up dying, which I still kind of went through the whole aspect of like, wouldn't that make it a Rittenhouse situation? But to be fair, when it came to Rittenhouse, like they wouldn't go back in time to the same spot too, because that turned into a whole paradox situation. So it, you know, that'd be a terrible situation. But like I said, who knows? Maybe the Jessica situation is the fact that she could be like one of her parents or something. It's not like someone or one of her relatives is Rittenhouse or something like that, went back in time to live their life or something. I don't know. You know, it's a complicated situation. So I'm curious to see how that goes going forward, especially with that. Also, you know, the whole potential square situation, like I said, because you see Wyatt about to walk up to help Lucy, but then he sees Flynn helping her, and it just kind of breaks his heart because he apologizes, which Lucy was kind of making it seem like it was okay. It's like, no, because she was finally happy. It's like, oh my God, like I have feelings for you, you have feelings for it's so good. Oh, it's like, no, that's your wife. Obviously you love her. That's what you've been striving for, because he was ready to move on, and now he's kind of been slapped in the face, which kind of makes it go like, yeah, it seems a little too coincidental that she's just back and everything, and it's just super complicated. So far they haven't been revealed like, okay, she's secretly walking away. Oh yeah, I'm here talking to someone else. Ha ha, I'm part of this evil plan. Let me reveal myself as a villain. Once again, that turns into that whole conversation. Would you want her to immediately announce herself as a villain? Or do you want it to be a situation where you find out at the same time the protagonist find out? Or would you like it to be like a last second thing, a reveal of like, boom, I'm an antagonist type of thing? You know, it turns into that whole conversation too, so. Also, what happens with the whole Gia situation, because obviously Rufus is like, I don't want to know anymore, because it's like, I don't know, maybe knowing would be a good thing, or maybe it is because even if you know it, you're going to try so hard to fight destiny that you still end up playing out things the way destiny kind of wants them to be played out. I don't know. Time travel, it's complicated. Loops, destiny, free will, all that is just complicated situations. I keep saying that word a lot because it very much so is. So I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode, especially like, oh, Emma's got orders from Nicholas to kill Lucy. Obviously, it won't be that easy. So we'll kind of see how things kind of progress from here. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good